In my parents' life, yeah, they didn't make the right choice, but I've seen so many really cool things that have happened. So you people that have been divorced, hey, life's not over, man. He's too big for that. And He can work in huge ways. I'm blessed with a stepfather and a stepmom, and I love them to death, and it's been great, But I will say this. I don't know how old I was, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. And I remember right after, I started having a reoccurring nightmare. The nightmare was my mom was about to go out and just hang out a little bit or whatever. It was nighttime. And I was going to bed. And as soon as my mom and her friends would walk out the door, I'd hear, ha, 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 ha. And I would walk out of my bedroom to turn to go to the bathroom in my dream, and I'd feel my ankle being caught and starting to drag down the stairs. Every night I had that dream. I don't know how long it was. The best gift parents can give their kids, you want your kids to be secure, you want them to feel safe, you need to be in love with each other, you need to stay together. You need a kiss in front of your kids. I'm not saying like well, you can. You need to hug in front of your kids. That builds insecurity. It builds in self-confidence for your kids. They know you're there. They don't have a worry in the world. And try this. Just do this for me, okay? Especially if you have little kids, this will work 100% of the time. Be in the kitchen. I don't know, for some reason it works in the kitchen. But just go up to your wife or guys and just start hugging. Just give her a big hug. But make sure the kids are kind of in looking distance. You know what happens? It's like a magnet. And they'll just start hugging you. In fact, we have 2 boys, and we have what we call the meat and the cheese. So we're making like a hug sandwich, and they'll hop right in there, and I'm like bear hugging them, Try it. Try it. Don't be afraid to show affection. Love on your wife. Hug on her. And vice versa with you gals. The security of your kids. So God hates it because He knows He wants godly offspring. He wants those kids to feel secure. They want to have good effect on them. Now, let's keep on going. Let's go back to 1 Corinthians 7. We're going to pick it back up in verse 12. And I want to address what Paul says here. There's a section of people that need to hear this. Starting in verse 12, 1 Corinthians 7. But to the rest I, not the Lord, say. Now he's not saying, well, this isn't inspired. He's just simply saying Jesus hasn't really talked about this subject at all yet. It's still God-inspired, God-breathed, the whole Bible is. He says, but to the rest I, not the Lord, say, if any brother has a wife who does not believe, and she's willing to live with him, let him not divorce her. And a woman who has a husband who does not believe, and he is willing to live with her, let her not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Otherwise, your children would be unclean. But now they are holy. But if the unbeliever departs, let him depart. A brother or a sister, Christian brother or Christian sister, is not under bondage in such cases, for God has called us to peace. For how do you know, O wife, whether you will save your husband? Or how do you know, O husband, whether you will save your wife? Pause right there. What in the world is he saying right there? He's saying, listen. Because again, this was going on in Corinth. We're going to address it right here. If you in this room or wherever on video or on tape, we don't have tape, CDs. If you are a Christian and your spouse is not a Christian, but that person is willing to live, he's willing to stay there or she's willing to stay there, do not divorce. Stay with them. And here's the reason why. He says, because you know what? That husband or that wife, they're going to be sanctified by being in there. And remember, we talked about sanctification. That word sanctified, it's basically hagios, and it basically means set apart. So here's the thing. If you are a Christian and that spouse is not, but they're living in that house, they're going to feel the effects of prayer. They're going to have the Bible open. And it says the kids, same thing. They're going to be in that household. There's going to be a sanctifying, a setting apart. That spouse is going to have a much better chance of coming to the Lord in your home than out carousing with a lot of other non-believers. I'll give you a perfect example. I was one of those guys in my career that, not real talented guy, so, I got cut a lot more than I kept the job. And so, I don't know how many teams were we on. I don't know. I think Denise knows the number, maybe 8 teams or whatever. But it was interesting because I'd go to a different team and I'd be able to see the dynamic, the spiritual dynamic of that team right when I got there because of the leaders on the team. There's some teams that I would show up and the leaders on the team, not Christian at all. And the locker room full of tomfoolery, you name it, it was going on. And what happened is that leadership spread to the rest of the team, and very few believers would be ended up on that team. Then I'd go to another team, and the leaders in the locker room, Christians, sold out Christians. Bible studies going on all the time. And you know what would happen? Little by little, ping, 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 all those guys start getting saved. Boom, boom, boom. Do you see my point? The locker room where there's a bunch of believers, non-believers, they started getting saved in leadership. So if you're home, say, I've had it. This guy, I'm going to kick him out. No, if he's willing to leave, if he's willing to live there, let him remain, man. He's sanctified. He's set apart. Crucial for you to understand that. How do you know, O wife, whether you will save your husband? How do you know, O husband, whether you save your wife? Now, you're not going to save them. God's going to do it. He wants to use you. 1 Peter 3. 1 Peter 3. Here's where we're going to come to a close. How do you know, unbelieving spouse, whether or not God is going to use you to lead your spouse to Christ? Particularly wives, because again, us guys are the knuckleheads, man. We got the thick brains. We're the ones that really stiff-arm God. God's knocking on our hearts, and our pride gets in the way. No, I'm doing life my own way. You're just a Jesus freak. Go do your Bible studies with all your friends, and go drink your mochas. And I'm not down with that. I'm a man. I can handle my own life. So Peter says, and this is going to go on all the time. I'm going to give you a little advice. 1 Peter 3. Wives, likewise, be submissive to your own husbands. Yes, it's the S word. That even if some don't obey the word, they, without a word, ladies, underline that, without a word, may be won by the conduct, go ahead and circle that, of their wives when they observe your chaste conduct accompanied by fear. Pause right there. See what he's saying? Wives, be submissive to your own husbands. If some don't obey the word, they're not Christian. They, without a word. You don't have to go around, well, see, you need to come to church with me, and I tell you, you need to do this, and come on now, I'm praying for you. Without a word. When they observe your chaste conduct. Stephen Baldwin, an actor. Let me tell you the story. They're living a crazy Hollywood lifestyle, him and his wife. He made some films that were really on the edge. They have a housekeeper move in from Colombia, one of the Hispanic countries. They hire her. She's a Christian. She comes in the house. Jesus! She's cleaning the house. And You're like, what is wrong with this? What are they